Welcome to the What's Your Truth podcast, the show that not only showcases the best of independent artists, but also explores what inspires them, what drives them, and what they consider their fundamental purpose as an artist to be. With me today are Hauk and Kelsey of the band Elf Queen. On a dark, dusty desert highway on the road to hell stands a tavern called the Orc's Head. Inside, you hear the searing sounds of siren song, the voice of Kelsey, the queen of the elves in exile. Next to her stands her chief advisor and the only surviving member of her court, kindly Uncle Hauk. Together they play the songs of their people, the songs of love, of loss, of fire and death, and magic and life and war. Kingdoms may fall, but the songs always remain. So Kelsey, or rather Hauk, wrote that part. Now here's the part that I wrote. Last year they released their most recent album titled Requiem, an absolute masterpiece in tribute to the late Josette Thea Nordman. It is a whimsical yet melancholy blend of angelic overtones and a hard rock inner core that are the sonic equivalent of having your hair delicately stroked while your heart is simultaneously being ripped apart by a pack of wolves and in the most amazing way possible. Hauk and Kelsey are two-time nominees of the IPMA Band of the Year Award and currently in the running for the 2023 Pulitzer Prize. They are a true dynamic duo packed with talent and style, and it's my honor to have them on the show. All hail Hauk and Kelsey.
Hello. You're going to send me that so I can use that in our new bio.
Amen.
Because that was well written.
Right on. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Good.
I am doing fantastic. If I were any better, I'd be two people. I feel very old now. Like that's like what old people used to say to me. It's like if I was any better, I'd be twins. But I digress. You guys ready to roll?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's get into it. So my first question is, how did you decide that you wanted to become musicians?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. My grandfather was a musician, fantastic pianist, fantastic singer, performer all around. And I think I got my love of music from him and watching him light up the entire room while he just sat and played anything, little ditty. It could have been his favorite song. It could have been walking around the road one day. It did not matter. He lived every moment of playing, and I have always wanted to embody that and to have that shine within me as well.
That's awesome. Hauk?
Yeah, I was in fourth grade. Guns N' Roses came on MTV, and I was just like, I seeing Axl Rose running around stage on a kilt. I'm like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And obviously the path there has been vastly different than his, but music's what I love. I couldn't imagine really doing anything else.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, right on. And I'm with you on the Guns N' Roses thing. Guns was my gateway drug to music as well, as you know. So but that's awesome. I actually didn't know that about you, Hauk.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize that was the beginning for you. That's cool.
It was a music video for Live and Let Die.
Uh-huh.
He had the red kilt and was running around stage with the mic stands and like, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to be that.
Pretty much. And I'm sure the kilt didn't hurt.
Oh, absolutely not.
So what was the first experience you remember having with music?
Mine was with my grandfather. I actually have a photo that I keep on my nightstand, and I am about 3 or 5 years old. I'm in this ugly Christmas sweater, and he's playing the piano and singing to me, and I'm singing along with him, and all you see is my face beaming. And I think he was my first real experience with music. But I think my first personal experience with music came from being in choir. So it was nothing but 4-part harmonies, and it was always so beautiful, and I wanted to continue to do that, to make these beautiful harmonies and to make this beautiful music.
Amazing. And Mr. Hauk, I do appreciate that you're doing the ladies first thing, by the way. Very chivalrous and gallant of you, sir.
Yeah, it just gives me time to think of my answer.
And then there's the practical side, yes.
Nothing if not practical. Gosh, the first music, as a kid, my mom used to take us to all sorts of concerts. I don't know how many times I heard the 1812 Overture as a kid. In terms of playing, I took piano lessons early on as a kid, but I was never quite happy with the teacher because you'll be learning scales and learning stuff from the method book, which is what they've done for every student for the past 100, 200, 300, 400 years. 200 years. Pianoforte was only early 1800s. So what do you know? But it was times where like I was playing my own stuff and putting exercises together and coming melodies. And I remember like I wrote it out and I showed it to my teacher and they're like, that's really great. Let's go back to the book. And I'm like, but I want to write. I want to create. I want to like, and as a kid, like you talked about the great composers and it's like, well, yeah, Mozart and Beethoven and Bach, but they're all dead. And I think I was in like fourth grade when I discovered that people actually alive today wrote music. It didn't end, 100 years ago. But I started like when I was in fourth grade, started learning how to play the flute. No, sixth grade, started learning how to play the flute. And then I switched to saxophone. Kind of went from there. Played in ska punk bands in high school, and went to college, and learned guitar and learned piano again, and learned all these different things. And just kind of it's been a crazy road ever since.
Amazing, right on. And who are the biggest influences on your work, and why?
I mean, there's influences in terms of lyrics, influences in terms of melody, influences in terms of guitar playing. I'm a huge fan of Skyclad and New Model Army. Skyclad invented the genre of folk metal. It was heavy, like thrash metal fiddle, so there's a little bit of a jig flavor. So that adds those really nice grooves and right upbeat feelings while singing songs that question authority and question the status quo and really make you want to think about things.
Sure.
New Model Army is post-punk, but very heavy, very aggressive with a brilliant grasp of poetry. Songs that just get inside your head, inside your heart and soul, and just really just make you question things.
Absolutely. Definitely. Kelsey, anything to add, or does that cover you?
That covers a lot of everything, I guess, as far as me and my vocals go, because Hauk does a majority of the heavy lifting. I just sing, I'm just here.
Just sing.
First of all, I've heard you just sing, and it's a lot more than just sing.
Oh, yeah.
I would say I'm classically trained. I started in opera and in classical choir and things of that ilk. And so for those influences, it was Sarah Brightman. I heard her singing in Phantom of the Opera when I was a child, and that I wanted to be an opera singer forever. And I was like, yes, that is it. But then I heard Paramore, and I was like, no, that's it. I want to be that. So I get a lot of influence from her. The Cranberries. I get.
That's a good one.
Every once in a while, we have a song that has that kind of flavor to it, and I channel my inner zombie, and it.
Your inner Dolores.
Yes, yes, and
good.
A lot of Amy Lee from Evanescence. She also was classically trained before she went into rock, and so those are I guess my inspiration points.
Yeah, all good ones.
Hell yeah, those are all great ones. And I didn't realize Amy Lee was classically trained. That's not surprising, but that's cool. Awesome. So what's the weirdest thing that's ever inspired you?
Such a broad, open-ended question.
The idea.
There was a song I wrote for an old band years ago called Blood Eagle. And the Blood Eagle, it's historically was a method of execution used very rarely and only for the most heinous crimes. Where basically you would tie someone down, remove their spine, and pull their lungs out.
Wow.
Like, through their back, so it would look like a pair of wings. And then you just like, hey, you've got wings, ha ha ha, and let them die. So I wrote a song about that, and people were like, oh wow, something terrible must have happened. It's like, yeah, I got pulled over, got a speeding ticket for some BS. But it was just one of those, like, I took my anger, it was one of those things, like, I wasn't, I got a ticket for following too close to the guy in front of me. And of course, this is back then I had super long hair and the full beard. And the next day, in front of the LA Times, police officer in Lancaster killed by a guy with long hair and beard.
Oh, geez.
I'm like, okay, so you were profiling me and you just needed the excuse.
Yep.
And yeah, I was pissed.
I see.
That's one of those, like, but would I actually find this cop and pull his lungs out through his back? Probably not.
You don't strike me as that kind of guy, Hauk.
It takes a lot for me to actually want to do something like that.
Yeah.
haven't really hit there yet. You know,
Well, happily, and hopefully we never see you get to that point, because goodness gracious.
I sure hope so.
That's a lot of dry cleaning, man.
A lot of time.
Yeah, you got to put on like 3 layers of the plastic gloves. And
So here's a fun one. How has your art influenced other people?
Other people?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
I mean, all sorts of different ways. I mean, every now and then you get messages from people like, "Hey, man, this song really like helped me through a dark time," or "The song helped my brother, find himself." My old drummer Dooley apparently met somebody in Boston who had a Hauk tattoo, and my answer is, where's the picture? He's like, "Oh no, I saw it and I said, hey, cool tattoo. I play drums for him." And the guy's like, "Awesome," and took off. I'm
Oh,
like,
jeez.
wait, what? You're telling me somebody out there has a tattoo with some of my song lyrics, and
Amazing.
And you didn't get a picture.
yeah. So I have no idea who this guy is or where he is, or I don't really get to Boston ever, so
Yeah, right. But he's got you tattooed on his body. I mean, likely in an appropriate place because he was seen out in public with it. So
yeah. To my knowledge, there's no inappropriate Hauk tattoos out there. No inappropriate elf queen tattoos.
Not yet.
Well, we'll get on that. Don't worry.
Next time you come to town, we'll get you.
Just in the link in bio for the Elf Queen website, so you can find their logo and get it tattooed somewhere inappropriate.
Oh. I actually have one. I have something to weigh
Oh,
in on.
awesome.
So we played PCR last year. It's the pagan community retreat
Cool.
here in California, and we played a new song that is actually going on our new album called Temple of the Moon, and it's basically a wedding song. It's about somebody professing their love and offering that oath to Odin so he'll hear and bless this marriage and make sure that it's like the strongest marriage that it possibly can be, the strongest bond. And so we sang this song, and a friend of ours who they're engaged came up and said, "Hey, I cried during that song. It was so beautiful, so powerful. Can we play it at our wedding next year?" I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. We would love for you to play our song at your wedding. Yes, please. Oh my gosh. What an honor.
That's so awesome. Wow, that must have felt great.
It was
Oh my
I mean, already that performance in of itself, like I've never had a performance that I truly felt was magical. And this was the first time that I felt actual magic in the air. And it was the most amazing experience. And I'm so glad that it touched at least one person.
Wow. That's so friggin' awesome.
So hopefully too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So do you guys? Oh, go ahead.
Married, make sure you run the set list by the missus.
Yeah, that is definitely an important thing to do. So do you guys have any pre-show or pre-studio rituals?
Lots of drugs. Lots of
Perfect.
cocaine, heroin,
copious
meth, you
amount.
mix it up.
Oh boy.
It's a delicious cocktail.
That explains why you're so high strung.
Woo! That's how I play so fast. No, well, it depends on every venue is different. Sometimes you're rushed onto the stage and you have to like just hurry up and go, and sometimes you sound check at 3 p.m. and don't play till 11 p.m. So you've got 7 hours to sit there going, all right, I am meditating and one with my belly button, and there's technical warm-ups I like to do, different scale patterns just to keep the hands loose. Always check the fingernails, make sure they're they're okay to play. We've got our costumes.
Right on.
My secret is that I'm always nervous. I get really bad stage fright. Secret. Don't tell anybody. And so I spend a good chunk of my pre-show convincing myself that I'm not scared to go on stage because I love these songs and I love performing them. So why am I afraid to do it? So, but then I get on stage and the lights hit me and Hauk plays the first chord and it's
just there in the moment.
Magic. So
it is. It truly is. And I've been doing this. I mean, Hauk knows this. I've been doing this for a long time, but I think there's an element of stage fright that everyone gets. I mean, even like, I think Eric Clapton was saying, like, this is like a decade or two ago, but at that point he'd been playing for decades and he still got stage fright, until he got like one good solo out, he just felt nervous. And I was like, really? But it's true. So
Yeah.
probably just means you're on your way to greatness.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's the plan.
But also, too, it's an indication that you care. I mean, really,
Yeah.
I see it too. It's like you really care about the music and putting the performance out and creating the effect you want to create. And that's really, it's a big deal,
Someone told me about performance, because I also do musical theater.
Sure.
If you're not nervous, you don't care enough.
I like that. I could definitely see that. Like to a degree, unless you're like a freaking train wreck and you just can't function. There's that. But yeah, if you like, there should be some level of, like you said, nervousness that is an indication that you care. Absolutely.
I mean, when we go on tour, our first show, I should have the same amount of nerves as I do as my last show.
That's right. Maybe even more so.
Maybe slightly less.
Like I said, every venue is different. Sometimes you have like the whole backstage area and you don't see anything until you walk out on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
True.
they have one bathroom in the building, and so you're just waiting in line with the audience as well. So like, hey, I gotta drain the main vein.
Rock, you did just say that, didn't you?
I did.
Good. How many times a show do you shake your head just like that, Kelsey?
Often.
I believe you.
Often. Well, actually, it's never during the show. It's only ever when we're rehearsing.
Yes.
Okay.
Who has the microphone during the show?
Yes.
Like occasionally I'll do backing vocals, but it's not often I have the microphone. I'm like, hey, you in the third row with the really sharp cleavage, come see me afterwards.
And there's the face.
There's the face.
Yeah, we don't. We're not Motley Crue. We don't do that kind of stuff.
No, I know. You're much more tasteful in your come-ons to your fans.
Yes.
So what risks, if any, have you personally taken for the sake of your music?
I mean, the obvious financial risks. I mean, here, I'm going to grab the camera.
Yeah.
Tour. So we've got Mr. Johnnie Ferro on the screen. You can see himself.
Wow.
So this is a studio that we've kind of put together over. Well, I started probably about 15 years ago. We've got all sorts of guitars. These are just the ones I'm using like on a daily basis. I got two Telecasters, my lap steel, Les Paul, and actually my Irish Bouzouki that I've been tracking today. We've got the keyboard, the harp, the really nice guitar I've been tracking, assorted microphones, books. In the other room, I don't know if you can see through the window, but
Would you like me to light?
I've got all sorts of guitars and stuff in the other room. Yeah. I don't know if you, yeah. So like that room's almost all full of, our tracking room is almost all full of guitars.
Yeah.
So we're really, you talk about risk. I mean, you got to invest in your career. You got to invest in your gear. You got to put the time in. You're investing time. You're risking. I mean, music, pursuing a life as a musician, of course it's a risk. I've nearly died a couple of times out there on the road, like literally. But at the end of the day, let's say I live to be 95. On my deathbed, I'm not going to think, damn, I should have gone the corporate route and made money and played more golf.
Mm.
I'm really thinking, there was that time I was at Wacken, the Wacken Open Air Festival in Germany, dancing around on stage for 20,000 people. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not going to think about it. Yeah, I got that great job that had health insurance.
Right. No, that's what you just described as kind of the dream. So,
yeah.
Right on.
I guess also there's a little bit of risk of just putting yourself out there and trying to create a band in of itself is a risk, because you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, you're putting in your heart and soul into a piece of music that may or may not hit anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so you risk, I think, a part of yourself just to be a musician.
Yeah.
Fully.
Absolutely.
No, 100%.
Yeah, we send out stuff for reviews, and it's always one of those like, do I actually care about the critics? Not really, but having a good review can open up doors, and it's good promotion, and
Sure.
and for every, oh my gosh, this band is amazing, this album was fantastic, we love what they're doing, why aren't more people talking about this band? We also get one like, wow, this band sucks, they should quit right now. Clearly, that they have no idea what they're doing, and they don't sound,
Requiem was a really weird album, and we just didn't understand it.
we actually, so Requiem is a 9 movement like singular work. It's meant to be listened to as like one 45-minute piece.
Yeah.
We got a review, and of course we're sending out descriptions of the album and the lyrics, and like, this is a singular work in 9 movements. We're like, well, this doesn't feel like 9 separate songs. It's almost as if it was like a complete work that's meant to be listened together. And I just don't get it.
Oh,
It's like,
Really?
oh,
yeah, really. I'm like, I don't know what got lost in translation, but or maybe they just put it on shuffle and didn't really think about it. Which does happen.
it does.
No, it's true. And just on the subject of risk too, because there's all the stuff you just described and the just being in a band at all. But I mean, even internally speaking, my experience too is like, you're in a band. There's also the internal risk of you're essentially in a marriage with however many people are in that band, and it comes with many of the liabilities of a marriage too. Like when things are great, they're great, but I mean, I think there's some classic examples of that, like looking at like bands like Fleetwood Mac. And the level of internal turmoil that band had over the years. They kept it together somehow. I don't know how they did it, but and by the way, rest in peace, Christine McVie, as of recently. But I was just like, it really is. There's emotional risks even involved because you're attaching yourself to these people. If you're going to do anything other than a garage band, you know what I mean? Like, and I've definitely been in bands where there have been, personally, and I apologize, this isn't meant to be about me, but I feel to interject or to chime in rather. But yeah, it's just like there's that level of risk too. I mean, you be in a band with somebody who's toxic, and then they can destroy you because they have access to all of your innermost emotions and feelings via the band. So there's also that risk as well.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah. One of the very first bands that I ever was a part of, I was 19. It was a really cool band called Triple Dog Dare, and it was a pop punk type of band that was really cartel influenced. So it had that kind of sound. And our bass player was so toxic, was so whingy just the entire time. He's like, I don't want to be at rehearsal. I'd rather be drinking. I'd rather be doing this. But then leave. Like, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. But we have ideas and we have dreams and we want to make this work, and we could make this work, but you got to go.
Yeah.
It's like with any, I hate to compare a band to a business, but in many ways it is.
Yeah.
Especially when you're going on the road, everyone in the band has their jobs. It's not, if you want to take it seriously and really commit, some people handle social media, some people handle merchandise, some people, handle the set list or handle this or that. You make a commitment. And you choose your bandmates carefully. And Kelsey and I worked together on a show before we started the band. It's one of those like, okay, she's a good singer. She also works hard. She shows up. She's got great ideas. All right, let's give this a shot. See what happens. And when we mesh great together.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's
gosh, we recorded all 17 songs from our first 2 albums in 2-3 weeks.
Pretty mostly.
Yeah.
Wow. That's intense. Holy crap.
Well, there was, because we did like one day in the studio for vocals, and I went back and edited and went back and finished like another 6 or 8 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And then a week later, went back for just a couple pickups. Like the first 2 albums, the drums were done by a guy out in Connecticut. So he just did 2-3 weeks of sessions, and then sent us the files.
Yeah. So,
Right.
all of this to say, it is absolutely important to have, like you said, that type of marriage relationship in a setting like this, because if you can't communicate with each other and you can't make things work out, then it just doesn't. And it's
100%.
If you're doing heavy touring, I've done a fair amount of work as a roadie, and you live in a tour bus for a month, you got to be able to talk to people or figure out how to stay away from each other.
Right.
Because, there's times where people get on each other's nerves. there's times where you need space, and in a small tour bus, you don't always get that. So, it's like anything. It's like a marriage. You have to talk to each other. You got to figure out how to make it work and how to communicate.
Yeah, well, and also just have mutual respect too, which I think is where a lot of times things can fall down, especially when things get tense. And I imagine a tour bus situation can be much like a pressure cooker at times. So yeah, just the mutual respect for each other's space and who they are. That's definitely an important thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's the craziest risk you've ever seen another artist take for their crafts?
Oh, gosh. Me and Ozzy Osbourne took a bite out of the bag.
Yeah,
I mean, that's true. That definitely happened.
I mean, Metallica put out a country album. The singer from Stone Cherry did a country album or two.
Mm-hmm.
No, not Stone Cherry. Not Disturbed.
Oh, Stained.
Stained, yes.
Yeah, Aaron Lewis did, which actually was pretty good.
Yeah, I heard one of the follow-up albums. On the other hand, Bret Michaels' country album, was the worst thing ever. I heard half of the single and I was just like, no, this is just offensive on many levels, and it's just bad.
Yes, you and I spoke about this actually. I think last time we saw each other, we spoke about that, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know though. Like actual risk for their craft and not just for publicity or for themselves. I don't know.
Every album's a risk because you've got, half your fans want you to stay exactly the same, and the other half want to see growth. So it's like, if you, as a musician, you've got to keep pushing yourself. You got to keep developing. If you put out the same 3-chord songs with no changes, no growth, no development, what reason are you giving your fans to buy the next album?
Right.
But if you, and this is definitely something I've been guilty of in previous bands, I put out a thrash metal album and then put out an acoustic folk album and then put out something a little bit more different. It's like people get confused.
Yeah.
So you want an honest progression, but you also don't want to go too crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that balance you had to strike between keeping the fans happy and keeping yourself happy, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Megadeth had an album called Risk because Lars Ulrich, the drummer for Metallica, did an interview and they're like, "So what do you think of new Megadeth?" He's like, "Oh, I don't think Dave Mustaine's taking enough risks." So Dave Mustaine's like, "You know what? Fuck you. New album's called Risk," and they just went as far as they could. They went to Nashville. They got more of a pop producer, and I mean, it's the songwriting's good, but it's not really what we think of when we say Megadeth. It's just, it wasn't, and Dave wasn't comfortable doing that. So later on, when the next album, he went back to something more traditional Megadeth, and really just kind of towards the end stopped caring what anyone said and just does his thing. You got to find a balance. You got to find what's really speaking for you.
Yeah,
that's right, definitely. So, what's one thing about you that would shock everyone to know?
I have really bad stage fright.
Okay.
Just kidding.
I love Taylor Swift.
Okay. All right.
I'm a big fan of her. She's great songwriting, great production. He says right after he talked about Megadeth.
Right.
That is kind of a funny juxtaposition.
It's
I almost brought Taylor Swift up.
I was at a camp out years ago, and this is back when my old band was started really getting going, and we had a few underground hits. And I'm sitting around a campfire, and there's this guy with long hair across, and he's listening to me play acoustic guitar, and he's yeah, you're not bad. And at the end of the camp, he's like, "Wait a minute, your name's Hauk." I'm like, "Yeah." "You wrote Raven Wings." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "But you play acoustic guitar." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "But Hauk is metal. No one is metal would ever play acoustic guitar." I'm like, "Wait, what? Really?"
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, "No, dude. I listen to all sorts of music. I play all sorts of crazy instruments. I mean, I just showed the Irish bouzouki I've been jamming on for the past couple of days. It's like you never know when a different influence is going to spark something.
Yeah.
And if you only paint with black, you only get black. We have a rainbow for a reason.
True.
The more you know.
Very true. It's just funny to me that I'm stuck on that comment that guy made about metal guys not playing acoustic. I mean, Slayer played acoustics back in the '80s. Like, Spill the Blood had an acoustic intro on it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that just makes me laugh.
Although Iron Maiden, actually, they had to send out for acoustic guitars on one album because they realized none of them owned any.
Oh, how funny!
So, yeah.
Metal band problems.
Yep.
Something surprising.
Yeah.
Something that would shock everyone to know about you.
I fly trapeze.
Whoa, that is shocking. And cool.
Yeah. I lived in Wyoming for a small amount of time, and
Oh, so you're one of the dozen.
yes, it was just shy of a year, but there was a woman who had a trapeze rig in her backyard, and I was so interested. I poked and prodded. I was like, I want to fly. I want to fly. I want to fly. And finally, she did an open house where anybody who wanted to could pay a small fee and come and fly on the rig. And I did, and I was hooked. And so I flew the entire time that I was in Wyoming. I got like a good 5 or 6 tricks in my back pocket and was able to catch them. So I was on the bar and we had a person on the end, and I would fly and let go and they would catch me.
Oh, wow.
So it was really exciting. It was really fun. And I wish that it wasn't $1 million to keep going on it. But
it's expensive. I have no reality on it, so it's an expensive thing to keep going on, huh?
Yeah, it's like $60 for a 1-hour session. And when you are starving artists like me, you can't really afford that, unfortunately.
Yeah, when it's choice between groceries and trapeze, the trapeze loses.
Yeah. I'd rather than fly. So.
Well understood. It's a logical decision. Good for you.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing or the one tool that you absolutely cannot live without as an artist, and why?
I mean, I'm tempted to pull out my Gerber multi-tool just honestly.
Those are handy.
Yeah. As a musician, like the ears are the most important thing you've got. It's the most important tool you've got. As I doing mixing, doing audio engineering, I use my ears all the time. I am like never without a pair of earplugs.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes, like if the grocery store is too loud, I'll whip out my earplugs and just put them in because, I don't take chances with my hearing.
Makes complete sense. Kelsey?
Mine is a little cocktail called Singer Saving Grace.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yes, I know this. I know this cocktail.
I lived on. Okay, so I was doing an audition for Universal Studios Japan, and I had gotten a summer cold right before and had healed but lost my voice.
Oh.
And so I was basically drinking my bottle of Singer Saving Grace just in hopes that I could have enough voice to come back. And I had enough voice to sing for my audition, and then I immediately lost my voice for the acting portion. So, but it got me enough to get through my singing audition. I sang Queen, Somebody to Love, and I killed it. It was amazing.
Good for you.
So Singer Saving Grace and I are best friends.
Wow. And I do know that stuff. I mean, that has got me through a gig or two. Actually, I played at a NAMM one year, and that was the only reason I was able to sing that day.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. Remarkable stuff for any singers out there.
Yeah.
In terms of gear shout out, so I kind of want to give a shout out to my friends at Strum and Comfort. They do my thumb pick wraps. So a lot of my guitar style is hybrid playing. So I'll be doing fast picking and then switch over to finger style, more of a classical approach, and then right back, or more like hybrid picking. It's Strum and Comfort. They're fantastic. We love them. They're awesome.
Not sponsored.
Just a little. We do. I do have a few musical sponsors. Optimus Strings are fantastic. Goldtone Instruments, Cryotone Guitars, G7 Capos. Which a certain somebody named Johnnie Ferro might have introduced me to.
Yes, in fact, I did, didn't I? What has been the most difficult piece of music for you to create, and why?
I think you know what my answer is going to be.
Yeah, I'm trying to think so far what song had the most difficult vocals for me. I think it was Requiem, because I hit some pretty high notes in that.
Oh yeah, you kind of blew the roof off the studio a couple times.
I did. Sorry.
So our third album is called Requiem. And it's literally a requiem written for my fiance Josie, who passed. So writing that, recording it, the whole thing, my brain and heart were just goo the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to hold my life together and just express myself at the same time. And it was rough, but good art puts you through its paces. I mean, we could write songs about, beers and trucks and girls with the jeans painted on and a little red cup full of beer. And
my tractor ran away with my girlfriend.
John Deere has got to stop making tractors that awesome because they keep stealing everyone's
You
girlfriend.
think my tractor's sexy?
The tractor thinks she's sexy. Yeah, we could be doing commercial pap, spoon feeding the masses with baby food, but I'd rather be challenged. I'd rather really put myself out there, reach in, pull my heart out, just kind of squeeze it onto the page and see what happens. Not everyone's going to like it, but
Yeah. What is the song that we do that is the really, really fast lyric one?
oh, Become Gods?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one is difficult. Become God is on our second album?
Yeah. It was the opening track on Breathe Out Fire.
Yes. That was a mouthful of words. It is very quick, very, I'm so glad that I have my classical training background because I'm able to put a lot of diction into a small amount of space.
Yeah.
Because this, like I said, this song is very fast and a lot of words very quickly. So I think that one had the most amount of takes
Probably.
of any of the songs that we've done.
Yeah. It's a tough one to play on guitar too.
Yeah.
I was trying to write something that's very fast and thrashy. And a lot of it's almost like stream of conscious kind of lyric writing.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of subtle messages and hidden context and meanings. And
You have to listen to it like 6 times to fully understand everything.
yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
Good. I'm familiar with this type of music.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right on. So here's a fun question. If you were going to write a book about your career up to this point, what would you title it?
I'm tempted to say My Struggle, but then it would never be published in Germany.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Ixnay on the Ruggle stay.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
What would I title? I mean, there's so many things you could title it. I mean, you got to ask yourself, what's the story? What's the story really about?
Yeah.
Is it my struggles with depression, my struggles with drinking, my struggles with women? The time I go every night when I go home and cuddle my teddy bear and think, why is life so insane?
Yeah.
A boy and his teddy bear. Journeys through the rock and roll wilderness.
I would
All right.
probably call it something like Making Magic.
Mm.
Yes. I love
Or what is it? The Dusty Road to Hell.
Yep.
Also, very cool title. No, but I love that you refer to magic again in that, and it really is. I feel like artists oftentimes kind of take for granted what they actually do. For people like when you guys, for example, take something like what you do, and you write it, and you give people this imagery, and you bring them into this moment with you, and you really create that, and really. I hate to use the word penetrate, but I can't think of a better one. You actually penetrate them sonically and actually draw them into your universe that you created. I mean, there's a magic to that for sure. It's a big deal. And you guys really do, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's every artist, every band has their own signature style, their own flavor. I mean, and you think going back to memoirs, like Willie Nelson's memoirs are half dirty jokes. Because that's just kind of who he is. He tells dirty jokes, and there's a story about this. And Christopher Parkening, who is a internationally acclaimed classical guitar god, half his stories are classical guitar, and the other half is him fly fishing. Because apparently he's an international fly fishing champion. So then I ended up learning this song with Segovia and studied this piece of music. And then I went back to Montana and caught a giant fish and reeled it in, and it was fantastic. Yeah, magic is something we aspire to, something that we try to work at. We like I said, we're not doing songs about the pickup truck and the tractor stealing your girlfriend. We're trying to do something a little different, trying to pull people into a whole new world,
Yeah.
a dazzling place.
I never knew.
Yeah.
But when
No one to tell us no or where to go.
it's so clear.
I'm picking up what you're laying down, just so you know.
Good.
Yeah.
But no, it's true. But I'll tell you what, man, that tractor is magic. Like you said, it's a girlfriend stealing tractor.
It is magic.
It sounds like witchcraft to me.
Mhm.
I personally, I think the reason I keep using the word magic is not just because our music is, I wouldn't say geared towards the pagan community, but accepted more widely by the pagan community, I guess is the better way to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, like you said, that's what we as artists do. We create magic. And I, as a child, was a huge bookworm. I used reading as escapism, and I escaped into those stories and let those stories take my imagination places that I never thought I could go.
Mhm.
And I feel like our music is a collection of stories that I want our listeners to be able to escape into and experience a little bit of that magic themselves.
Absolutely. That was very well put.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You're talking.
I got two more questions for you. First, what are your plans for world domination?
Well, as advisor to our tyrant and overlord, I will be recommending universal health care, public education, and
Mass vlogging.
only
good.
consensual flooding. And only for more album proofs.
Silver Allen.
You know, we're writing a new album right now.
Mm.
We're hoping to do a bunch of shows. We're looking at all sorts of different avenues and different. I mean, every week's a little different. Sometimes we're pitching songs for TV shows or films. Sometimes we're tracking and working on stuff. You know, we're in an age where content is king, so you want to have more videos and more interviews and more, more stuff.
Yeah.
But also, we want to make sure that anything we're putting out there actually matters.
Right.
Yeah.
We could start a Facebook page that says "I love beer" and put up memes, but who cares?
And we'd get 1 million followers in 2 days.
Right.
Right.
But who cares?
Right.
Well, okay. And then my final question, and just to revisit the introduction, not the very ornate, incredible intro that Hauk wrote, but my intro to the intro.
Mm.
The show is obviously to showcase artists, but it's also to explore what inspires them, what drives them, and what they consider their fundamental purpose as an artist to be. So, Hauk and Kelsey, what's your truth?
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Mm.
Like, wait a minute. No, the question is, what is our truth?
Yep.
To quote the Bible, what is truth? Said Pontius Pilate. Then he washed his hands. Hand sanitizer.
That's good. He was COVID friendly.
Indeed. Life has been an incredible journey so far.
Mm.
And it's absolutely continuing to be an incredible journey so far. I mean, I've had heartbreak. I've had multiple near-death experiences. I've had great success and tremendous failure. I've worked with some of the greatest artists in the world. I've worked with some of the worst artists in the world. No, you're amazing.
You're not fooling anybody.
I know.
Go on.
I got stories about some people I've recorded that were just like, okay, how am I going to fix this in post? Because we ain't fixing it in pre.
Mm.
I think when we think about the songs we're writing and the message we're trying to send to people, a lot of it is believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, believe in magic, believe you are magic.
Mm.
And really don't let anyone tell you how to live your life. Just go out and do what makes you whole. Find your own truth.
Yeah. It's such a tough question to answer because it's, at least for me, it's very broad and it's hard to really pinpoint one specific thing because there's so many different facets of every individual just as a human that is who you are fundamentally and is your truth, because every day that you live your life adds to that, adds to your truth, adds to your story, adds to your legacy. And so I don't know that there is any one answer to what is your truth.
Fair enough.
I mean, certainly not one we can tell in a half-hour podcast.
Sure.
When I'm 95 on my deathbed, ask me that question. I hope I'll have 95 years worth of answers.
Maybe we'll write a full album about it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you should.
I like it.
Right on, guys. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome.
So we get to ask you questions now?
Later. I can't answer those kind of questions on this show. It's not that kind of party, Hauk. But before we do end off, I did want to give you guys 60 seconds to plug anything you got going on. 60 seconds of everything Hauk and Kelsey. Go.
As we've said before, we're working on our 4th album. We have, almost 20 songs already written. We're working on putting those into the studio, finalizing everything. And this album, I think, is going to be the most cohesive and amazing thing that Elf Queen has put out. I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Awesome. And I'm sorry, I can't remember if you said, when is that due out?
We're still in studio for that. We don't have a set due date.
Not yet. Okay, cool.
But when we know, you'll be the first to know.
Yes, please.
Well, third to know.
Yeah, right.
You know, first,
Of course.
I was going to say, you guys will know before I do. I'm sure of that. It'd be funny if I knew before you did, though.
We hope so.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
if you get a record label involved, and sometimes they do set a date, and then like, hey, you guys got to deliver by this date. Like, okay, we'll get back to working.
Yeah,
So be it.
that's what we got. That's at least what we got concrete.
But do check out our previous albums, elfqueen.bandcamp.com.
Good.
We're also on, on Amazon Prime and Tidal and Spotify. Yeah, we're out there. You listen to the songs, drop us a line on Facebook or Instagram, or
We try to answer as often as we can.
Marvelous.
if you send a pigeon, please include a return pigeon
Yes.
so that we can actually respond.
Yeah. For those of us that use carrier pigeons, we'll make sure to do that.
Yes.
Right on, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. This was incredible. And everyone else, until next time, this has been the What's Your Truth podcast. Later.
Peace.
Yeah, you follow your own rules and you preach them on to me. But you don't think before you act, and you ain't got no business with me. You don't know. But tell me what's your truth? Oh, what's your truth? Now you got down on